What is self-compassion and why is it important? Self-compassion is this concept of offering ourselves compassion and kindness in the same way that we might be compassionate towards other people or empathetic towards other people. I was first introduced to this concept of self-compassion via a book by the very same name. So, Self-Compassion, the proven power of being kind to yourself. This book is written by Dr. Kristin Neff, who's a psychologist who's done probably the most research of anybody on this particular topic. I first discovered this book via the audio version of the book, and I've read it, listened to it a couple of times now. I discovered the audio version of this book during a period of personal pain and healing and growth. In the summer of 2018, I had a situation where my whole life felt like it had fallen apart. I had just ended a 15-year relationship. Right around the same time, my full-time salaried job as a director of marketing had suddenly become a part-time contract position, and my elderly dog died. And all three of these things happened within the course of a few weeks. So suddenly I was having to figure out how to work from home and pay my bills with half of my previous income. I was having to learn how to deal with essentially a divorce. My partner and I weren't legally married, but it was as if we had gone through that sort of a breakup. I was learning to live alone and work from home, so I was by myself a whole lot. Because my partner and I had been together for so long, a lot of my friendships were shifting and were different. I was figuring all of that out. And I didn't have a dog. I didn't have a companion animal to get me through this because my dog also passed away. So I was dealing with a lot of different things all at once. And so I discovered the audio version of Self-Compassion, and I listened to it as I was starting to create a ritual for myself. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana, very close to City Park, which is an amazing park filled with these ancient oak trees. And so I would go on walks over there and I would listen to this audiobook as I was walking. And Kristin Neff's self-compassion and learning some of these tools got me through such a rough time, and it's become a system of tools and a way of looking at myself, looking at my experience, looking at life, and looking at other people that's helped me be more self-compassionate, helped me get through some really tough times. And especially now, I'm recording this in April of 2020. So if you're far in the future looking back on this, this is the moment when we are deep in the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so things are changing. We're all dealing with a lot of trauma and grief and heavy things and learning to shift and adapt. And we don't have access to some of the coping mechanisms that we can't physically go and touch and hug friends and family in the way that we might have before. So learning tools like self-compassion are more important now than ever. One of the things that Dr. Kristin Neff talks about in self-compassion a lot is the difference between self-compassion versus self-esteem. So this really resonated with me because as a kid, I felt like I was a high achiever. I made good grades in school. I excelled at a lot of the things that I did. I did theater and ballroom dance, and I always picked up things pretty easily. And so I felt like I had a lot of self-esteem growing up. But what they found in this research that Dr. Neff and her team have done is that self-compassion is actually much more powerful than self-esteem, not only with how we relate to ourselves, but also with how we relate to other people. The thing with self-esteem is it's often very surface level, and a lot of times people can act as if they have self-esteem, but they may actually have a lot of internal self-doubt, internal self-hatred, or uncertainty, insecurity. For example, bullies often seem as if they have high self-esteem, but if you really think about it, most bullies are very insecure. That's why they act like bullies in the first place, because people that really have a lot of self-compassion and self-love don't feel the need to act out and bully other people. And that's the thing about compassion, both self-compassion towards ourselves and compassion towards others. The thing about compassion versus something like self-esteem or a big ego is that compassion goes both ways. So as we learn to be more self-compassionate, we also start to be more compassionate towards other people. That's what Dr. Kristin Neff and the other researchers have found in the actual data and the research, is that when we be more self-compassionate, we can be more compassionate, more empathetic towards others. And it also works in the reverse. So if we have trouble being self-compassionate at first, like at the beginning, to be self-compassionate was very hard for me, but it was easier for me to try to find compassion towards other people that I cared about. But that's the other thing that they found, is that as we are more compassionate towards others, it can also help us unlock more compassion towards ourselves.